Hello everybody, this is Mr. Loy, your friendly D&T teacher. You hear me or you see me again today. We are coming into term 3 week 7 and you have a few sessions of D&T starting with your journal on the toy display stand. By now you would have at least covered up to page 15 and some of the classes would have already started using the Vanguard sheets to draw out their chosen idea and use penknife and scissors to actually cut out the outline to have what we call the mock-up. So on page 16 will be where you will paste your Vanguard sheet mock-up after you trace it onto the acrylic for your practical. So we are actually moving ahead to page 17, which is for the Express, your last page, presentation drawing. Now in a previous video I mentioned about not having the need to use a pencil to come out the outline, and then you actually color the chosen color that you have actually would like to have in your presentation drawing, because it doesn't look real. I give you an example. This is a blue color template, right, stencil, so you don't actually see the black pencil outline over here, right? It's like entirely blue. So this is what I mean. So we are going to use the color pencils to actually start. Now since we are on the topic of circles, as you can see from the front view of any drawing, right, you will see a perfect circle such as this. However, when we look at the object at a slant angle, all right, such as the isometric, which is about 30 degrees slanted to the right and slanted to the left, this perfect circle, all right, somewhat looks like no longer a perfect circle, right? You can see that it's a little bit skewed. We can call it an ellipse, right? And then this is back to the perfect circle. So when you see the object from the side view, it is not a perfect circle. You cannot use a pair of compass, or anything that's round shaped to draw the side view. Now, of course, objects to help you draw circles are such as this, all right? We can have actually coins, like so, for different sizes. Couldn't get the 10 cents out. And of course, the stencil that I've shown you just now. However, you want to draw the ellipse on the side view, for example, this one here, okay? So I mentioned here, over here, you can actually make use of curve shapes objects such as this hand sanitizer or protractor, or the best is what we call the French curves or your flexi curve for your mathematics. So we're going to use some of these tools to draw the curve shape. Now a simple example would be to use a piece of paper such as this, measure the radius, right? This is the end, circumference, and this is the center. And of course this one you have already seen, isometric, your template. So you come up with a rough center and then you mark out, and then you have this diagonal line, you actually mark out like so, and over here you mark out and just run through, all right, mark out, mark out, mark out, and mark out. So what you do is actually we are coming out with a freehand sketch of a ellipse. Okay, so very much like this. So of course on the other side, the left side facing, you do the same, all right, get the center line, and then you'll do the mark out over the diagonals as well, and then you should be able to sketch an ellipse, all right, like so. Okay, and of course if you have it from the top view, all right, the ellipse, then you will have something like this. I have to adjust the paper, or I need to rotate the paper because I'm fixing the camera angle and somewhat obstructed by the support of the camera. So this is how an ellipse is formed. Okay, so let's pause and move on to the next segment. Alright, we're back. This is page 17, where you're supposed to present or create your presentation drawing of your final design. Now, you notice that perhaps maybe this space may not be big enough. Alright, of course, what you can do is it's okay to actually draw about full size and cut across the student reflection box. Otherwise, you can actually use a blank A4 sheet and you do your presentation drawing there, cut it up, or you just paste it directly over. Okay, this is when you find that this space here is just too small for you. So what we're going to do is I haven't done page 15. Okay, so this is actually where you should be making use of your chosen idea and present it on page 17. I'm going to demonstrate using page 14, my chosen idea, which is this one, alright, from the previous page that I've chosen. And in the class, I would have probably demonstrated this to you, and this is how it looks like. Now, what is this thing that I'm actually flipping? You will be issued a A4 tracing paper. So it is good for you to align the tracing paper like so, and use masking tape and tape it down so that your tracing paper will not move when you use your drawing tools over the line. We're going to trace this, and we're going to use the tracing paper later on as an underlay for page 17. Okay, later on you will see what I mean. Now we are actually coming up with a presentation drawing or presentation drawing. You will need to actually draw the outline properly, so there will no longer be freehand sketching of lines. So for example, over here, all right, you can see that I've actually rested my tracing paper quite nicely. So what you do is you use your straight edge, such as your ruler, and you actually draw the straight lines down. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate a bit of it, and then I'm just going to show you the completed design. Now, what about the curves here, right? Remember, you can even find your own scissors, all right, to find the best curve for you, such as this, to draw. Or of course, like I mentioned, your set of French curves will be the best. So you choose the correct curve that you would like to draw over, and just run over the line lightly. Okay, and of course you do the same for the rest as well, right? So let me just demo this part again, just to show you to get the best curve that you possibly can. All right, so you have to do a little bit of measurements. You may have to go a bit, and then you adjust your French curve to complete the curve, like so. Okay, now this is my straight line, so you can use a short ruler. Mine is a long one, and you just run the lines over. Okay, now a quick tip is that you do not jump from lines to lines. Okay, reason being, you might forget where you last stopped. For example, what I did was actually I did this bit first, then I jump over to this side. So I've actually not drawn this curve over the tracing paper. So it'd be good to go through something like a weaving, all right, to go round and complete everything. So in view of shortage of time, what I've done is this. Let me remove this original one. So what I've done is I've done this one. Okay, so you can see, if I lift up, you can see that the outline of my chosen idea I've actually traced over, okay, including the platform and the window. So this is what it is. Alright, earlier on in the video I mentioned that if this space here is a little bit too restrictive for you, you can actually get hold of a piece of A4 paper, place your tracing paper below, alright, use masking tape to tape the corners so that it don't shift, and then you trace over, or rather you use the choice of your color, and you actually outline your object again on this A4 paper. After which you can always paste it over page 17. All right. Now you can see that actually this tracing paper, you have a choice to make it dark enough so that when you rest it below page 17, you should be able to see the outline. All right. In fact, you can actually see the assessment grid rubrics at the back here. So this is 70 GSM paper. If not, what you can do is when you trace it over your chosen idea on page 15, you should use 4B pencil. If not, like what I did, I run it over with a fine tip marker pen. So you can actually do that as well. Now I just want to add a little bit of the observation about this part here. All right, if you were to look at it carefully, it doesn't seem right, because when we cut the material at this corner, a curve and a straight edge, you can't really see this portion. All right, what do I mean by that? If you had actually drawn it and make your Vanguard mock-up, all right, so imagine this piece of paper, I've actually cut it out, this corner here, and when you're supposed to bend it, all right, at the bending line here. Now from this view, imagine there's thickness. You should be able to see a bit of the thickness here, and it goes in. But at this part here, all right, when you view it from the isometric point of view, you can't really see this portion here. All right, the edge actually goes in, so something is not right here. So just to rectify this later on, of course, when I complete the presentation drawing, it will not look like this here. It will look somewhat like this. Okay, so the material actually curved in, and then from this view you can't see the back of the thickness. All right, so this is the edge view. So this is the correct one versus this one here. So let's proceed. This is the back page of page 17. My tracing paper, all right, is actually also resting against the same orientation as my page 14 here, this way, right? So now, of course, it looks that this is like the back view of the drawing, and secure it with masking tape like this. Now I've actually adjusted it so that actually there's sufficient space for me to actually draw my presentation drawing over here. Now I've actually flipped page 17 back right here, and my tracing paper is below. However, you will see that this rubrics on page 18, all right, you can actually see through. It may somewhat kind of like present a little bit of challenge for you. So my recommendation is to turn the page 18 away and place a white piece of paper below, or make sure that your table is clean. So what I did is get a piece of paper. It's actually another journal. I find that it's fairly white here. So then I rest the page 17 with the tracing paper over. Now the reason is because your A3 journal has been stapled. Normally when we do presentation drawing, it should be loose sheets, right? Easy for you to move around and such like that. So of course, for now, we are just going to make things with, all right? And this is going to be the start of the presentation drawing. Okay, I have my usual set, my daughter's color pencil. So let's say you've decided on blue acrylic. In our workshop, we have a range of colors. We have tinted black, luminous green, yellow, opaque blue, red, green. Of course, it's subject to availability of while stocks last. So anyway, I'm going to pick this blue, right? And you will need your drawing aid, such as your rule and your French curve, all right, to help you come up with the drawing. Now, vaguely, you should be able to see the outline on the tracing paper, right, at the back. So what you do is you rest at the start point, for example here, and you don't normally draw the line, all right? So what you do is actually you slant the pencil tip at the starting point, and you kind of like flick, yes, flick to the center of the object, okay? And then down here, you actually place here, and then you flick backwards, all right? So you're supposed to do it very, very lightly, okay? So don't do hard, all right? Same thing for shading. If you color it dark already, you can't make it lighter. But if you color light, then you can actually make it darker later, right? So of course down here, there's nothing much you can do. There's not much of space. So you just flick through, and then you flick it back here, all right? Now down here, it goes all the way to this point. Of course, what you do is you just rest and kind of like flick it to the center, and then of course over here you flick it to the center, right? So you won't see a uniform line being drawn. That's the whole point. Okay, so of course down here is also straight edge, which is fairly easy. So just want to show you from this angle now. So you just flick lightly, and of course you can actually do so this way as well. Okay, so you just actually flick it like that, right? So you do the same for all the outline. And what about the curve? So once you find the right curvature, you draw very lightly and run the line through as well. Okay, like so, right? Just run lightly. I'm going to pause here and complete most of the surfaces so that I can show you the coloring. Okay, students, you can see that I kind of like come up with most of the outline. And remember that you have to keep your pencil tip sharp so that you can actually come up with a very thin, nice line. So I just want to demonstrate here, alright, the use of the curve, the French curve. So for example, such as this curve here, you just run lightly through, alright. And of course, all this you must find the best fit for you to actually come up with the curvature, right? Like so as well, this part here. Okay, so you have to decide which is the best part of the French curve that you select, and then you run through like this. Okay. Now, so I'm going to show you the shading. So, for example, we're going to start from here. All right. Now, this shouldn't be your first time coloring, because remember, when you first started from page 3, the back of page 3, all the way to even the back of page 10, 11, 12, you're supposed to choose a color of your choice and actually practice coloring on one of your chosen idea. Okay, of the 4 rectangular grids or the templates, you would have actually chosen one idea and you apply the color pencil of your choice, and then you color. So this is the point where you can actually decide which is the final chosen color for your chosen design. Okay, so what you do is you color lightly. All right, now of course you don't want the lines to go out of the edge, so what you do is actually you rest your straight edge, for example, and then when you color, right, you actually hit along the edge this way. All right, so do it lightly, remember. All right, the rule of thumb is you color lightly first in a uniform direction, and then where you are going to apply the darker tone, when for example there's a light source at the top right hand corner here, right, then this part here is going to be a little bit darker, then you can actually color darker, right? Okay, I apologize for the slamming of the door just now. So you see, if you were to look at the long edge, you actually shape in this direction all the way. If it's the same surface, you keep in the same direction, right? Then of course, if you have this slant line here, you can actually color lightly this way. Now for this platform, all right, I have actually chosen to color this direction. And for the thickness, all right, because we use screw saw to cut, so basically the saw marks is actually vertically, so actually I color it lightly this way all the way to the end here. As for the base, what I did was actually I follow this long edge, and I actually color this way, okay, lightly. Now let's say a simple light source is at the top right hand corner. Of course, this area here will all be dark, so I'm just going to show you and demonstrate by adding a little bit more pressure. All right, you can actually create the so-called darkened area here, right? So all this area is going to be a bit dark, and you just kind of like let your thoughts flow like so. And of course, at this edge here, this part here is dark because the light source is further up there. So what you do is actually you shade. All right, now you realize that I rotated the paper is because I have this camera support stand here in my way, so I'm actually behind the phone camera. So you darken it like so. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle, so what you can choose is yellow. Now the idea is you pick at the corner or the edge, and then you flick a long one, and then you kind of like flick back this way. Okay, this is a bit too long, and then a short one. Okay, 3 or 4 lines will do. And for example here, I chose one corner here, so I flick up, and then I flick it, and then I flick at the other direction. So let's pick another one, perhaps it's over here. So you flick up, and then you can flip it to the side, and then you flick it this way. Okay, now the rule of thumb again is doesn't mean that the more sparklers that you have, the better. Okay, it's like about sparingly across here, perhaps even here at the top. Okay, so let's do one at the top here. Right, so something like that, and that's it. Okay, and of course you check any area that you need to add a little bit of color, and so on and so forth. So this ends this video presentation. Hello again. I just want to add that on page 17 you have enough space for at least 2 of your presentation drawing. Now, although the instruction is to sketch the chosen idea and render with color pencils like the one on the right, you can actually explore trying yourselves using marker pen as well. So what I did was, can you see that actually they are flipped over? So the good thing about this tracing paper is that you can actually flip the tracing paper the other way around, and you can actually use your marker pen with your drawing tools such as your ruler and your French curve, alright, to come up with the second drawing. Now, of course, for marker line work, if you can, dark areas, for example, your lines will be closer, right? So I'm just going to show you a few here. So these lines are closer, and let's imagine that it's getting brighter over here. So what you do is got to do it carefully, alright, because I'm just like gonna fast forward. So you can see that I've spaced out the vertical lines over here already. Okay, and then you continue, and let's say this actually darker here. Oops, I made a mistake there. The lines are somewhat closer now. Okay, you got to do it very carefully because this is marker line work. You can't really erase it. So just going to show you very close lines now. Okay, all the way to the end, and they are like very close to each other. Okay, alright, so this is like the effect you can see, okay, over here. Now, of course, horizontal lines, you can actually do it for the top surface like so, right? And then you carry on the other edges like here as well. Okay, so it's a bit dark here, so you get closer, and then you move up a little bit, space out. Okay, of course, you see I made a mistake here. So apart from that, you may want to experience using what we call calligraphy brush pens as well. Okay, so of course that's the other aspect. So this is page 17. So do explore yourself, all right? Use tracing paper to run through the outline, and then you color accordingly. Bye.